Hi, I'm Bill Hodges, and this is Spotlight on Government. And today we have Ross Spano, the state representative for Florida District 59. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Bill. I appreciate you having me.
I really think it's interesting to talk with our state legislators. And one of the things that always, I think a lot of misconception is that this is a full-time job for you. It's not, right?
Not even hardly. Not even.
$29,000 a year isn't enough?
Well, I tell you, you don't do it because you want to make a lot of money, that's for sure. And I don't know that anybody's complaining. I'm certainly not complaining because I think it's service, it's public service, which is what most of the folks that are up there want to do. They want to serve. But there is probably a misconception that it's full-time. It's definitely, it feels like full-time, but in terms of our time in the Capitol, we're only there 3 or 4 months altogether, including committee weeks and the session, and we're in our district offices maybe a day or two a week. But most of us have other full-time jobs.
And the people here think you're a stand-in for Kevin Bacon.
That's what I've heard. I've heard that.
What do you do in the real world?
I am an estate attorney, and I work with families and seniors. So
Okay.
I draft wills and trusts and really exciting things like that. And I'm just kidding. It's not exciting to most folks. It is to me. But so I work with families and seniors, and we do estate administration, and we do wills and trusts and planning, succession planning with small businesses and that type of thing.
You know, really, it's hard to realize. A lot of people look at 30,000, 29,000 and say, well, that's all I make a year. But when you take somebody like yourself that's invested in their education and is running their own business alongside, it's very important that you're willing to give this time for that kind of money.
Yeah, well, it is, and I think that goes again to really the idea that most folks that run don't do it, for the money. They understand it's a sacrifice and it's a public service, and that's how I feel about it. I think that's how most of my colleagues feel.
Well, but you only work 3 months a year, right?
No, again, not hardly, not hardly. We're in Tallahassee altogether, maybe 4 or 5 months, but at least 2, if not 3 or more nights a week, we're speaking at an engagement somewhere. We're constantly attending luncheons and community events, which is where we need to be. We need to be connected with the community.
And you're married, correct?
I am married, happily
You have
married.
children?
I do. I've been married for 22 years and have the best wife in the world, Amy, and we have 4 kids. Our kids are 21, 19, 16, and 14. So we got a lot of action around our house. 3 boys.
So when you take them all out, that's family time though, that's private. You can go to restaurants and nobody bothers you, right?
Well, these days, occasionally folks will come up to me and talk to me. And again, I don't mind. I don't mind. We were talking a little bit off the set about this past Christmas. And you think that maybe even for a day or so you'll be able to get away from it
with the family, right.
But my father-in-law wants to talk to me about politics all day long, and so I said, Chris, time out. Give me a day here, all right, so we can just celebrate and talk about stuff other than politics.
With all of this, I've always wondered, and I ask everybody who comes on the show that's in political office, why would you do this to yourself?
Well, it's a great question and one I get a lot. And the answer that I have for that is when I was a kid growing up, my dad, he used to tell me, Ross, this is the best country in the world.
And I believe it is.
And I believe it still is. And he would say, you can do anything that you want to do. And you can be anything that you want to be. If you work hard and you follow the golden rule, you treat people like you want to be treated, you can achieve anything. There's nothing beyond the bounds for you. And he was right. I had opportunity. I'm the first person in my family that has gotten an advanced degree of any kind.
Mine too.
And so the opportunity to be an attorney and, goodness sakes, run for office and represent the people that I love, what an incredible opportunity. So I had that chance. And I ran for office because I want to make sure that my kids, my 4 kids, have the same opportunities that I've had. I want to fight to make sure that they have those same chances. That's the reason I ran.
Who is this lovely wife that you mentioned? What is her name?
Her name is Amy.
Does she help you in your business also? working in the home?
She certainly does. She has been probably the single most important facet or part of my success as a man, as an attorney. She works in the firm. She does some of our accounting and accounts receivables and billing and that type of thing. So she works with us part-time, and we've got 4 kids, so she's busy at home a lot too. But she's in the office. And
how women do it, to be honest with you.
I can't.
I would fail quickly on that.
I'm so grateful for her. I really am.
I often wonder how a person can do all the things that they do, like you, with being in this job and being a father and then I look at the wives of all the political candidates. It's not just a matter of you running for office. The entire family runs for office.
You're exactly right.
That's different than any other job.
Well, it's so important that you have the support of your family, because if you don't, you won't be successful and you won't be happy, that's for certain. Interestingly, when we ran for office, this is my first time in public office. I've only been in office for a year. When I broached the idea with my wife and my kids, I don't think they really had
crazy, Dad?
Well, they didn't have a full appreciation for what it was going to look like, but they all chipped in and they supported me, and it was hard for them, because Dad wasn't home, especially during session, when they're taking final exams at school and they need help with homework, and my wife is there all by herself trying to make it all work. That's a sacrifice.
And keep the office running, because you're not there.
And because I'm leaving that burden that I used to bear a little bit, now she begins to assume some of those things. And so it's been quite a challenge. I couldn't have done it without them. Thankful to God for them. I'm optimistic that they'll continue to support me like they have, because I'm going to need it.
Well, let's talk about the legislature itself. You're an attorney, so you have a legal background. What kind of committees are you now serving on?
Not surprisingly, I serve on 2 law-related committees. I serve on the main Judiciary Committee, and I serve on the Civil Justice Subcommittee. I serve on 2 education committees. I serve on Higher Education and Choice and Innovation. Love both of those committees. I have an opportunity to sit on 2 healthcare committees, Health Quality, and now I've just been assigned to a committee on health access, which is a new committee, a select committee this year, which I'm really excited to be working on.
You've hit on a lot of areas that are kind of hot buttons with me. I think education is probably one of the primary things that I'd like to see us put a little more emphasis on in the state of Florida. The Department of Education has been kind of up, down, sideways. We're going to test, no, we're not going to test. The tests count. We're going to give teachers an extra raise if they do. No, we're not going to give them a raise. There's been so many mixed signals sent. Is the legislature ever going to come together and coalesce and come up with a plan?
It's a great question, and I've heard those same themes from constituents as I talk and relate to them in the community, and that is that there's so much change happening that the education system itself really can't ever adjust and find out if it works or not.
Right.
I had a chance to sit down with Bob Heilman, who's the principal at Riverview High School recently, and very respectfully, he approached that issue with me and said, if there's one, I asked him, what's the one thing you'd like for me to take back to Tallahassee with me this year? And he said, I really would like you all to understand that we need time to see if these things work before we upset the apple cart.
Exactly. So, if you no business would make 15 changes all at once.
Right.
They'd make a change, see what happened, make a change, see what happened. But it seems like they've just dumped the cart rather than anything else.
Yeah. And in fairness, I think most, if not all, of the changes are well-intentioned. We want to do the best we can for education. We all have ideas we'd like to see. But I think there's a certain degree of really a measured approach that we really do have to begin to take to education. And so hopefully we'll begin to do that. My understanding from talking with my colleagues that there's a kind of a growing sense that we kind of need to put the brakes on a little bit and let's see how things really fall out and settle out before we engage in any significant changes. One of the things we did do last year, which I think was important though, however, I talk about not changing, but we did something last year that I think was fantastic, and that was we created a dual-track diploma. So we have kids that now have an opportunity to obtain not only a scholar diploma if they want to go to college, but also a merit diploma if they want to graduate with some kind of an industrial certification or workforce training, so that when they graduate, they've got a job skill to find a job. The problem that I was seeing was that there were kids that were either dropping out because they lost interest, right? There was nothing there for them. Or they said, well, I'm not going to go to college, and they're pushing me towards all these classes that are going to force me to go to college. Why do I need to be here? And so they ended up dropping out or graduating with no real job skill, effectively or practically, that they could find work. So I'm excited about the fact now that we have this dual track system, and I think we've got to do more in that regard. But we've made a step toward that end. I have 4 kids, and we talked about them just a moment ago, and they're all different. All of our kids are different. They're not all made the same. And sometimes we get into trouble if we try and shove every kid into the same compartment. And so I think we're doing a disservice to many of our high school kids by not giving them an opportunity to pursue something that they really love. And it may not, we don't want to discourage kids from going to college. That's not the issue. But we want to give them an opportunity, if they would choose to do so, to get a skill or certification in an area where they can find a job. And many of these jobs are well-paying jobs for which there's a lack of a workforce availability right now.
Yeah, especially in the tech fields, there's a 35% gap in some of those tech fields, high math, those sort of things.
Right.
I laughed a little bit while you were talking. It wasn't that I was laughing at you, but I was thinking back a long, long time ago when my 8th grade teacher told my mother that she was getting me out of the 8th grade because she didn't want me there, and that she was going to recommend that they put me in reform school before I got out of the 9th grade.
Oh boy.
But they didn't know how to teach me.
Yeah.
I was a right-brain student in a left-brain school system.
Yeah.
And our system so much is patterned after that left-brain way of doing things. You will understand this, and you don't even have to understand it. You just memorize it and regurgitate it back.
Yeah.
And the kid says, why? And the teacher says, because someday you'll need it. And the kid who's a right-brain student is going to say, then I'll learn it when I need it. What do I need to know now?
That's exactly right. That's right.
And I go down to our schools where they teach the welding and the cars and all the different things. And I see happy students that actually walk in looking at the building rather than going in backwards so they don't have to see it till they get there. And we need to do more of that.
Yeah, we do. We sure do.
Vocational education. Gracious. You go out and try to get a plumber on a weekend, see what happens.
You're exactly right. You're exactly right.
It just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So we need more, and I agree with you. Is the legislature doing something beyond giving them different certificates in order to increase our vocational education?
Absolutely. The first step is creating a second track. And now over the next few years, you'll see us, I think, put more funding toward that end, and that is to encourage kids that want to go to those tracks, making opportunities. And you can't provide a track for every single area in every school. I mean, that's not practical.
No, it's not.
But you want to have some schools that specialize in one thing, and have another school specialize in something else, and then give the children and their families and their parents the ability to make a choice about which
target schools.
There you go. There you go. Yeah. So I do think that's where we're headed.
What do you think of charter schools? I'm a little bit leery. Every time I see one of those, somebody ends up stealing the funds and it's collapsing.
Well, you do have, just in any scenario, you've got bad actors, and you're going to have that anywhere you go. I am personally in support of charter schools. There were a couple of opportunities, a couple of years where my own kids attended a charter school here and there, public charter school, publicly funded, overseen by Hillsborough County Public School System. And so we have some great charter schools like Pepin Academy. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of
yes,
that.
I have heard.
But specifically focused on teaching and learning disabled kids. And they've just opened, I'm so thankful, they've opened a second campus down in Riverview in my district. And so I do think there are charter schools that, especially those ones that really target a specific area, that do a great work.
Define a charter school for me, will you please?
Yeah. Well, a charter school is publicly funded, okay? It's given a charter by the state, or it's authorized to be able to teach. It is accountable to the public school system in terms of its curriculum and criteria. The only difference is that it doesn't have the same requirements in terms of its workforce, in terms of what it pays and for teachers and so forth. There aren't the same level of guidelines and regulations that apply to public schools. And so the issue is there's a little bit more flexibility in terms of a charter school to be able to do some things that in a public school setting you can't.
Maybe we need to reduce some of the guidelines and things in the public schools if the charter schools work so well.
Yeah.
I know you have a number of things that you're really passionate about in the legislature. So education being one of them, but there are several others. So let's move on.
Well, thank you. We talked about it. I'm a small business owner. We started our business about 7 years ago. Born and raised here, been here my whole life, but kind of stepped out on my own, hung a shingle, and opened a law firm. And over a very difficult period of time for anybody to start a business, we've grown our business now. We've got 13, 14 employees, and so we've been able to create jobs that people need to.
Do you have other attorneys working in your staff?
We do. We have 4 attorneys that work at our office. We've got a title company now that we've started, and we've just been blessed in many ways. But small business is important.
Blessings come when you work hard.
It's amazing how that happens.
Yeah, there's some correlation there.
Yeah, there's no substitute for it. But so small business is important to me. It is very important to me. And the makeup of my district is such that we have lots of small businesses.
You might want to just give us the makeup of your district, the direction or size of it.
Sure. Well, you look at the greater Brandon area, East Hillsborough County on a map, and it goes from on the south side, Boyette Road, just down in Riverview, up to Martin Luther King, which is up in the Seffner area. East over to a rough kind of line is where Dover Road is at, over in the Dover area. And then it goes west over to about I-75, 305 when you get down to the south side, down to 41. But easy way to do it is just look at the map, Greater Brandon, that's District 59. But we're lots of small businesses. We're a great bedroom community.
Yes.
But we're small business, so that's something that's important to me. Not only because I own a small business, because we have so many small businesses in our district.
I've run a training company since 1980. I've not accepted a paycheck from anybody since 1980. So I believe in small business.
Yes. Yeah, it's important. So that's one of the things I'm passionate about. And so to that end, in Tallahassee, we're working to protect small businesses and do things that will help small businesses, and small businesses employ a majority of our people.
What do you think some of the most important things that you see in the last year or so being done for small business?
Yeah. Well, one of the things that we've done in the legislature is making sure that we can create an environment that puts as little burdensome regulation on small businesses as possible. I mean, I'm not a guy that says we don't need government. We need government. We want our trains to run on time. There has to be order. There has to be structure.
Environment,
absolutely. But there's a point, though, where that begins to become burdensome and it begins to discourage folks from getting into business because it's so difficult and the number of hurdles that you got to jump over. So we've had in our mind, and as we plan for the future, we've taken steps to begin to try and lessen some of those burdens. One of the things I'm working on this year is a bill we're going to be proposing that's actually going to decrease license fees for businesses. And so we're hopeful that in an improving economy with increased revenues that we're going to have the flexibility to do that, to help small business out a little bit. So that's a big issue for me, small business. Another issue that I'm working on, I'm really passionate about, is the issue of human trafficking. Thank goodness more people know about it. Awareness about it is growing and has grown, thanks in part to the job that the news media has done. But we have a long way to go. Tampa Bay is number 3 in the country in human trafficking. Hard to imagine that that's possible.
How is that possible?
Well, I mean,
what makes us such a focal point?
Well, I think there's a lot of tourism here. That's part of it.
Okay.
There's a lot of tourism, and maybe because of the ports and access to so many different types of people coming into the state and whatnot. Beyond that, I don't have an explanation for it. And I can't find a legitimate explanation for it. I know that we got to do something about it. We have done something about it. There was a Safe Harbor Act that we passed 2 years ago. I wasn't there, but essentially what that did was it when law enforcement picked up a young lady under a context of prostitution, they were presumed, right, to have been trafficked instead of presumed to be a delinquent. Right?
Oh.
So that was a good thing. If you were an underage young lady and you were picked up in that scenario, there was a presumption that you were dependent and not a delinquent. So that's brought with it a couple of other problems. Maybe we can talk about that
Sure.
a little bit. But that's something we did. And last year, I'm really proud of a bill that we sponsored and passed. I had some folks come to me and say, Ross, I know a young lady who was a victim of trafficking. She's trying to get out of the system. She can't find a job. She can't get an education because she is a convicted felon. Because in the context of the trafficking, she was prosecuted for some drug-related offense or prostitution, coerced, forced essentially
Sure.
to engaging in that action, and then ends up with a criminal record. Now she can't find a job. She's trying to start over. She's trying to create a life for herself, but she can't get into college and get an education. So what the bill does is it allows an individual like that to petition the court of original jurisdiction, to vacate or expunge that conviction so that she can truly start over.
Well, I think that's great.
I'm really proud of that.
I've never
bill.
really agreed with the idea of criminalizing prostitution to begin with. I'm sorry, it's something that's as old. They say it's the oldest profession in the world. I don't know if that's true,
Yeah.
but the fact is, I don't like the idea it's criminalized. You know, the people going out and doing it maybe, but
Well,
they get off scot-free and the girl goes to jail.
Well, and that brings up another point that we've got to do better in terms of legislation that's directed toward punishing the Johns.
Yeah.
Certainly in the human trafficking scenario.
Exactly.
This past year, I believe it was this past year, there was a bill that was passed that basically fined a John $5,000 if you engaged in a prostitution with a trafficked person. Okay. The problem with that.
How do you know it's a trafficked person?
Well,
I guess
if there is documentation or in the context of the criminal investigation that would tend to show. So that's
no,
how
I
they
mean
do it.
from the John standpoint, how do they know it's a trafficked person?
Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe the idea would be not to engage in
doing it.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
But the issue with that is we haven't been able to effectively enforce. The good thing about that it was that the money was intended to pay for safe houses for trafficked persons, right? It was part. Where are we going to get the money to rehabilitate these young ladies? We're going to create safe houses for them. Where do we get the money to do that? Part of the idea was this penalty that Johns would pay would go to fund the safe houses, right, for the trafficked individuals. But we're having a problem enforcing getting payment. So I think we're going to do something this year that would really give some teeth to law enforcement's ability or the state's ability to be able to actually get that money from the Johns. You know, whether it's through some type of garnishment, wage garnishment, or asset levy or something. We've got to be able to enforce that. So. But those are issues that we're tackling, we're continuing to tackle, we're going to do again this year. I'm hopeful we're going to sponsor a bill on that issue, maybe an omnibus bill that covers a number of different issues that need to be addressed. So I'm excited about the opportunity. And you know what? Sometimes people will ask me, well, what's the best part, what's the thing that really you enjoy the most about being in office this first year? And here's what it is. The ability to have the chance to affect a change in the law that really makes a difference in someone's life. Not even their own life, which that's important, but generationally.
Yes.
Their children,
Sure.
their grandchildren. Sure. And wow, I mean, it gives me honestly chills talking about it. But
I can see your passion about it.
The opportunity to have that, that influence and to be able to advocate aggressively for something like that you believe in is a real gift.
You know, something you brought up, and I want to go back to it because you've actually alluded to it more than once. There is more money coming into the state now. Real estate is going up, so there's going to be increases. There's more money being generated. And I came here in '99, so I saw the excesses of all the money, the ballooning of real estate and the taxes going up, and everybody was awash in money. Well, being a small businessman, I know I'm going to have good years, I'm going to have bad years, and so during the good years, I do like they did in the Bible. I put it away so it's safe, and during the bad years, I could pull some out.
Yeah.
What I saw was them spend, expand, expand. And we've only got a few minutes left, but is there any safeguards against that going to happen this time?
Well, I'll tell you one thing that I was really pleased to see last session was that there was an acknowledgement of the mistakes that we've made in the past by actually taking almost $3 billion from the budget and putting it into reserves. So we put that money away. We're putting it into a savings account so that hopefully it's 15, 20 years from now when we go through a down cycle
We know there's going to be cycles.
It's inevitable.
Any businessman worth their salt knows they're going to have good years and bad years.
That's right. And as legislators, we need to be responsible and make those responsible decisions by putting that money away, which is what we've done this year, what I believe we'll continue to do, and what I think we'll have in the forefront of our mind, and that is our responsibility to make sure we sock that money away, which we've done. So I'm excited about that. And another thing is that I'd like to see us, if possible, begin to reduce taxes on a level that gets down to real people, right? Like you and I, real people. I am of the opinion that individuals, from a base, natural, kind of organic level, make better decisions with our money than Tallahassee or Washington.
Except for, I would say from my standpoint, and I only speak for myself, if you taxed me another $1,000 a year and some kid got to go to school or somebody got health care or something another, it wouldn't affect our style of life at all.
Yeah.
Giving me back $100 checks like they passed out a few years ago, it really doesn't matter. I want to see you use the money judiciously and right.
Right, and I don't disagree with you with that. I mean, education is absolutely
I mean,
a
I've
priority.
been blessed.
Yeah,
I mean, truly.
There are certain things, like I said before, we need government. We want our trains to run on time. We want to have law enforcement. We want to be safe. The issue with that I think most people think is that my personal opinion is that we've kind of relegated, or maybe some of us have bought into the idea that government can decide better what to do with our money than we can. And I don't believe that's true.
You know, it's exciting to have you on the show. And I promise you a couple of minutes at the end of the show where you get a chance to actually talk to your constituents, thank the ones that helped you get elected, and promise the ones that didn't that you still represent them too.
Absolutely.
But you know what? I'm running out of time.
Uh-oh.
So you're going to have to come back.
I will do that. I promise you that. And I thank you for the opportunity to be here. It's been a real pleasure. I've enjoyed it so much. Thank you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, this has been Representative Ross Spano, District 59, State of Florida Legislature. And it's been a great discussion. I look forward to having you back. And I want to thank Gloria Perez, your person in the office. She is efficient and she is great.
Thank you, Bill.
I'm Bill Hodges, Spotlight on Government. You're unique, you're special, and you're great. Tell yourself so often because you are, you know, and we'll see you on the next Spotlight on Government. And again, Ross, thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much.
Good morning, Tampa Bay. If you're going to work this morning, expect heavy trafficking. At I-275 near Fletcher, there's a van full of undocumented Hispanic women and girls being smuggled and forced into prostitution, stalled on the shoulder and slowing things down. On I-4, an accident has shut down the northbound lanes and has stopped several truckloads of young South American men on their way to a forced labor farm.
The trafficking of unwilling human beings is in Florida, right in front of our very eyes, and we have to stop it before another day goes by.